How we doing, everybody? Back for another episode of Will These Comics Make Good Film and Television? Look what I have in store right now. All right, welcome back. I think we're on episode 30. I don't know, it's 29 and 30. I guess we'll find out when I'm done. But yeah, we're about to embark on another fun-filled episode of Will These Comics Make Good TV and movies? And I only have one DC, got a few Marvel, and got a bunch of independents as well. So let's find out. I am your host, Frank Zanca. I am an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, comic book writer, and a working line producer who recently moved from Los Angeles to Atlanta, and now we just find out that the strikes are over, so hopefully I'll be getting back to work soon. Of course, we have the holidays coming up, and nobody shoots anything during the holidays, so there's that. But what do I write as far as comics are concerned? Well, I'm glad you asked. We have Lords of LA. The second issue is now up on Kickstarter. We are 1 week in. We are fully funded. And I'd love to unlock some stretch goals so everybody gets some free stuff. So we are on Kickstarter. You can click the little QR code there. I think it's on this side. And on top of that, you can click the description below as well. Or you can just go right into Kickstarter and type in Lords of LA. It'll come right up. It's a vampire mob set in the Hollywood 1950s. It is about a lounge singer who is trapped in a lust triangle with two vampire mob bosses who you find out some other stuff about later on. And she is turned, but she doesn't know which one turned her. So she decides to come back 60 years later after making a power structure of her own and decides to take revenge on them. So this is the Lord of Vegas storyline, and I finished that up in this issue. It's 48 pages, and each one is 48 pages, so it'll be a total of 90 pages for the storyline, or pretty close to it. So anyway, that's it. If you can help support that, please do. Now let's go right into these comics. We're going to start out with Birds of Prey by Kelly Thompson. I am not a fan. First of all, for me, Kelly Thompson is extremely hit or miss. That Cull book, I stopped like 2 issues in. It was going nowhere. And everybody else is saying that even now, like 4 issues in, it's going nowhere. I collected her Captain Marvel run because I like Captain Marvel. She went all the way to episode 50 or issue 50 with it. And she should have been cut off that long before. And now she's on Birds of Prey because everything she does is very female-centric. If you have one male character in her ensemble, then that's a lot. So she doesn't really write well-rounded stories. And, and that became more apparent as the Captain Marvel run went on. And now in Birds of Prey, it's the same thing. Birds of Prey is, of course, that's a female-centric cast to begin with. And now they're going to Themyscira to rescue Dinah, I think it's Dinah, which is Black Canary, her adopted daughter, who was an assassin. I think it was Gail Simone's run or whatever. It was a long time ago. But anyway, so the artwork on here is just not good, and the coloring is extremely bland. There's no shading at all to any of this stuff, and she really doesn't write Harley Quinn very well, and they thank her and stuff like that. So they need to get to Themyscira, even though John Constantine was in the last issue and was able to teleport them, teleport Black Canary to something else, but they can't. Obviously, you can't take her to the island. So, and of course, they can't use a boom tube because it makes too much noise. So they're actually working with King Shark. And King Shark says something extremely stupid. He's just like, yeah, I wouldn't want to kill you guys anyway because then I'll have all the superheroes after me. The superheroes are already after you, man. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So already it's kind of stupid, and they're basically literally traveling in like the Jonah and the whale situation where they're traveling inside this big Meg shark. But then when it gets a little brighter, you can see that there's absolutely zero shading in this book. It's extremely bland. So then Zealot prays to the island and rubs some salt on her wound. Really, literally, it's like sand in her wound. And she has this box. I don't know. This box has a worm in it. Oh, and look at that. Batman 89. I'm going to have to get that one. But, she puts some salt on the wound there. But she has that box. Look at that box. And she's making a thing with a covenant with the island. What the fuck? And so she's like, we can't be killed on the island, and we can't kill anyone else. So literally no one can die. Where did this magic come from? I have no idea what's going on. Is she in contact with the gods or whatever? I don't know. So she decides to try it out and literally stabs Harley Quinn right through the chest. And they just kind of laugh it off. What? I don't know, man. So then they continue to take out Amazons right and left like they're nothing. And I just can't abide that. The Amazons are not nothing. They would put up a good fight on anyone. And as far as I know, they're stronger than Big Bart is probably the only one that's strong enough to fight them. So they end up finding Dinah's daughter there, and they have a nice little hug scene and stuff like that. So that's all right. But I still can't get over the sword through the chest. So then Dinah, from another side of the world, just calls up Green Arrow and says, okay, it's time for phase 2. What? How's that long distance charge work? And and of course he's trying to slow down Diana from going back, but so he's hitting her with arrows and stuff like that, and she slings the tiara and breaks his rope and all this stuff. Yeah, Green Arrow versus Wonder Woman is just not going to work. I don't really understand that. He hits her in the ankle and then she turns into butterflies. I don't understand any of that. But all of a sudden, poof, she goes from like Washington D.C. or whatever else right to Themyscira. I have no idea how that happened. If you ask me, I couldn't tell you. If you had a gun to my head and said, how did she get to Themyscira? I'm like, I have no idea, man. Just kill me because I have no idea. It makes no sense. It's like it looks like it's the same, unless it was just the colorist making a mistake, and now Diana has the ability of turning into butterflies and flying to Themyscira. She don't need the plane anymore. At the end of the plane, you need to turn to butterflies. It's just weird, man. I do not know if I'm going to continue this or not. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, and it's just getting worse. We're on issue 3, and it's just getting ludicrous. Just getting ludicrous. So I'm going to say a big fat no for that one. Of course, Birds of Prey is already a hampered IP because of thank you to Margot Robbie for completely screwing that up. All right, so let's move on to What If the Tomb of Dracula. So I got the variant cover. Why I spent $6 on this, I have no idea. I mean, the cover's nice, but it's going to sit in the box, so who the hell's even going to see it? And so the artwork on this is pretty bad. So you have a horror book, right? And just look at how bright everything is. There's no contrast. There's no heavy shadow. There's no nothing. So we have Quincy Harker, which is, I don't understand. So if you're a fan of Dracula, you will know that Quincy was the cowboy because there was like three different suitors for Nina. I think it was Nina, and maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was the other one. But anyway, it was one of the two girls. I don't think it was Nina because Nina was engaged already to Jonathan Harker, right? So they took Quincy and they stuck Harker's name on the end of it. I don't understand why. But anyway, so the whole beginning is about the fact that Dracula fights the doctor that is sent to Blade's mother's house to facilitate the birth instead of going to the hospital. What? And this is supposed to be like, times like now, because I don't know if she's a whore or whatever else. They look like they're in a whorehouse. But anyway, the woman's on a phone. Okay, maybe a rotary phone, but she's on a phone. So it's not, we're not talking about the 1800s here. So why didn't she go to the hospital? So it's like late 70s, early 80s, and then he bites her. But he bites her when she's already giving birth. She's not getting pregnant. So I don't understand that. So when she gives birth to Blade, and he's the normal day walker. So she dies in childbirth. But how did the blood immediately get to him? I'm not understanding that. So anyway, so Quincy is now a invalid in a wheelchair, and Blade is now grown up. Where is that picture I wanted to show you? So I do not know. So here it is. So Blade is like the old Blade here from like the 80s. Okay, he's not all in black and stuff. That's how Blade used to look when they first created him. He was more like an army guy, which I really like the new version, obviously, a lot better. But, even this scene here, so we have this 2-page spread with Dracula, and there's no shading. Look at the background. Everything's bright as hell. This is just a hit and a miss, man. But it's like, what if Dracula, so Blade is, now he's in the black costume. So he's getting bitten by Dracula, and he's like, that hurts, And now he's enthralled by Dracula. So, but it's what if, Blade was bitten by Dracula? But who cares? I mean, he's already a vampire. What does that actually ever change? So, and he only does that halfway through the book. So we're at the tail end of this, and then he and Dracula fight, which is kind of stupid because they're in these like bat forms. That's really not drawn all that well. I mean, yeah, it looks kind of stupid. So it may have been better on paper than it did visually. And then, of course, he fights Dracula at the end. Just the normal Blade stuff. That's why I don't know why it's called What If, because we've already seen this. We've seen this in a movie, with him fighting Dracula. So he kills Dracula, and that's the extent of it, and then he blows himself up. So Blade dies at the end. Yeah. So I think it's Jed McKay. The Jed McKay Blade, as much as that's kind of falling off the cliff right now, it started out really well. That is far better than this. This is horrible. Cover's nice. That's about the extent of it, but otherwise, would it make a good film or television show? No. It's not good. Not good. So moving on to The Punisher. So this is not Frank Castle. After, Jason Aaron deconstructed Frank Castle once again. I don't know why people can't leave that character alone. Can't leave him as he is. But for some reason, everybody likes to mess with him. So, yes, we've messed with him enough now. So now he's in this other dimension or whatever else. And we found out that he was a shit father. We found out that he was a shit husband. We found out that he was psychopathic from the beginning. And his wife, after he brings his wife back to life for the most part, basically selling his soul kind of thing, she kills him. She shoots him anyway. I don't know if she doesn't kill him, but So now we have David Pepose, I don't know, one of those things. Uh, he decides to make his own Punisher that's not Frank Castle. So it's the actual tagline says the man is different, the mission remains the same. So we get this, he's still got the skull on his chest, but it's black now instead of white, so it's not traditional. They even changed the symbol because I guess that cops were using it and stuff like that. They used it in the Sniper movie with Bradley Cooper, and I guess that's a bad thing. I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. I don't know why you guys do. So yeah, but so they decided to keep changing the skull to something that looks a little different than what's normal. But I grew up with that skull. That's the only one I know, and I'm a big Punisher fan. That's why I disliked the last Jason Aaron run. I didn't like what they did to him. So I decided to pick this up. It's a mini series, but the biggest problem, I think everybody's biggest problem with this, is the title. Because this is obviously not the Punisher. Frank Castle is the Punisher. So I don't know why you couldn't make up a new name for the guy. I know it's only a 4-issue series, and I have no problem with, a mantle swap for a small amount of time. And Wonder Woman's done it with Artemis. Of course, Thor did it with Jane Foster. Everybody's kind of done it. Captain America did it with Bucky. And of course, now there's a continuation with Sam, which makes absolutely zero sense. That should have ended a long time ago. They should go back to Falcon. But anyway, so if there's going to be a mantle swap, it needs to just be for a short amount of time. We find something new, and then we're like, all right, let's go back to the old guy. And I'm okay with that. And then the fact that this is only a 4-issue series, I'm okay with that. But I get people are having a problem with the fact that it's the Punisher, and it's not really the Punisher. So yeah, let's come up with a new name. You don't need the mantle swap. So anyway, this is a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent whose family is murdered. So the timeline's a little bit off here because we see the murdered family, but the guy's already on a mission to avenge them. So we never get to see him mourning. We never get to see any character progression from what he was to what he is now. It's immediate. And, he's got, that's why it's a different look, because it's a S.H.I.E.L.D. issue costume, which makes no sense. Why would it look like a skull? So he gets into, a big fight with this whole thing because he's looking for the guy that killed his family. And I mean, the fight scenes are okay. I got no problem with the fight scenes. I have no problem with the character, really. But again, the biggest problem is the fact that he's borrowing the mantle for no reason. So his version of Microchip is this girl Triple A, and then they make some silly references to aiding and abetting, or what the Triple A stands for. It's silly dialogue. But I thought the artwork was pretty decent. He's on his bike and the whole bit. And I think the artwork's decent. And, check this out. So we were talking about, when I was showing you the Captain America stuff, and I was showing you the ROM stuff. And that book, I looked it up. I think that was 79. So I said it was early 80s. I was actually a couple years off. But look at this. They're bringing ROM back after I just said it. They're bringing ROM back. Wow. I haven't seen him since 1979. So anyway, this is where it gets kind of silly. So he ends up fighting almost it's Hyde, but he looks like the Hulk, right? So he's fighting all these guys, and then he basically has the Hulk. All right. So the guy is like towering over him, and he's trying everything in existence to hit the guy, and he knocks out his eye, and that doesn't make him happy at all. So there's the eye shot right there on the bottom, and then he takes the briefcase that's filled with like drugs or whatever else, and he puts it in front of him, and the guy punches him through a foot concrete in this railway station. Through a foot of concrete. And so the whole wall breaks. He's on the other side, on the tracks. And he's like, oh, the briefcase took the brunt of the hit. What about your back, bro? Your back just went through a foot of concrete. And you're just going to stand up? No way, man. Your back is cheese. You ain't getting up. You ain't walking again for the rest of your life. I don't care what kind of armor you got on. So that was stupid. And so the guy gets close enough to him. He's like, I'm going to kill you now. And he shoves some of the drugs into his mouth. And that doesn't make him feel all that good. So he like blows up like a fucking balloon or something like that. I don't know what any of that is. I don't know what any of that is. So he like basically explodes on the ground. I don't really know what's going on. So then he has this standoff. This was kind of cool. So it had its moments. That's about what I can tell you. It had its moments. So he has this standoff with this guy across the tracks, and the guy is holding this girl as a hostage, as a shield, and he's got to make the shot in between the moving train from the one side to the other, and he makes the shot, which I thought was kind of cool. So again, it had its moments. I'm not as harsh on it as a lot of other people are right now, because there's been some really bad reviews of this. I'm probably going to get the second issue. Of course, I'm a big Frank Castle fan, so you can't replace Frank, but especially when he has my name. But I'm willing to give this a shot to see where it goes, especially 4 issues. I'm willing to give almost anything a shot for 4 issues except the Cull. Mike Kelly Thompson. I don't know, whatever, man. So yeah. So let's move on. So would it make a good film or tone? No, it can't, because the mantle swap doesn't work, especially with a character that's still finding its footing right now, because they did the Netflix thing, but that series. But we really haven't seen a really good version of the Punisher yet, as far as I'm concerned. So I thought the TV show was kind of boring. It really wasn't the Punisher as far as I'm concerned. We had a couple of movies prior to that. The closest one was Punisher Warzone, but unfortunately they made Jigsaw kind of cartoonish. So that's probably the closest Punisher we've seen so far. But yeah, I'm waiting for a good Michael Paré back in the day would have made a great Frank Castle. Unfortunately, he's too old now, but back when he was doing, I forgot what the name of the movie was called, something of Fire, Streets of Fire. When he was doing that stuff totally reminded me of Frank Castle, and even his voice and his inflection, and when he did Eddie and the Cruisers and stuff like that. I don't know why he wasn't tagged for that. That would have been good, and it would have really shocked his career up. And now, and Punisher is the type of superhero character you can do on a lower budget. You don't need special effects for that. Anyway, that's my tirade on Frank Castle, one of my favorite characters, and he hasn't really been done justice in visual medium just yet. All right, so moving on to Blood Commandment. I heard this was good. This is actually last week's book. But I heard it was good, and so I decided to pick it up. And I read it, and this is something I'd never seen before. So the book itself, but anyway, look at the art on this. So this obviously is a horror book, and it's basically in black and white and red. I think there is some red in here when we do blood later on. But this is how you do a horror book, where it's all very, contrasty. It's very moody and stuff like that. I mean, that screams horror right there. I mean, look at the amount of dialogue there now. The scene, man. That's a shit ton of dialogue. But let me show you what I haven't seen before, and then I'll get into the actual story. So, yeah, there is some red in here with the flames and stuff like that. I mean, it's nice work. It really is. This is by Image. I can't even say the writer's name. But, so, there's no ads. There's no nothing. The artwork keeps going all the way to the back. The last page is actually the back of the book. That's what like them saying we're not spending any more money to add another page to this book. And I don't, how much is it? Because now everything's off the chain. $3.99. So they wanted to keep the price at $3.99. So they limited the pages to going all the way to the back of the book. Hey man, I'm all for it. Let's save the money, and I can read the back. So anyway, this is about it's a very simple story so far. It's about a man and his son. They are on going hunting, and they find a deer, and the boy has the rifle. And the rifle, when he fires, the shot misses. So he says, "Oh, you missed." And he's like, "No, I didn't." He said, "Well, you know, the bullet hole in the tree would say differently." He's like, "No, I did that on purpose." He's like, "I didn't want to kill it. I didn't want to kill the deer." And he says, "That's okay. That's okay." And he's like, "You're not mad at me?" And he's like, "Nah, it's all right. It's all right. You be the man you want to be." I thought that, and I remember. I mean, that's not the exact dialogue, but I remember the gist of it, which most of the time I don't remember some of the dialogue, but so I thought that was very impactful. And so we find out that they don't really want to talk about the dead mother, and he's missing the mother, and they have this conflict due to that. And we really don't know what happened to the mother, but it's a good possibility that the father, I guess, I don't know if he's a wolf or a vampire. It leads to a vampire situation. That he ended up killing the mother for bloodlust or whatever. But we see him in this form later on, like killing a deer, or killing the deer. I don't know if it's the exact same one. But yeah, so that's what the creature looks like. So he doesn't really look like a werewolf. That's what I'm saying. And he's got these big fang teeth. And yeah, so what does that look like to you? Does that look like a vampire to you? So it looks like one to me, because it definitely doesn't look like a werewolf. So yeah, so I don't know where this is going, but I like the characters. So I like the intrigue of it. I like the setup of it. There's not a whole lot that happens in there, and there's only 4 issues, right? Yes, was one of 4. So I'm willing to, like I said, I'm willing to go through anything with 4 issues, especially when it's pretty decently written. So, and somebody else, I think it was on Max's channel that said, I think Max said it was set up to be a Netflix pitch. And I understand why he said that, because every little thing that you would have in a television script or a movie script is in here, where I think it's kind of wasted space. So you have, all these visuals as if the guy is directing, a TV show or movie, where we literally see the pendulum going back and forth, the metronome, and, and it just keeps continuing, which is a lot of wasted space for like 3 pages of a comic book, where you really have to be economical in telling a story. So you have those 3 pages that say absolutely nothing, and he's on, and he's trying, even his name is in those credits right there, as if he's doing a television show or a movie credit scene. And here's where he misses the deer and stuff like that. It's good stuff, but I can definitely see why Max was thinking that, because it's a wasted space, and that's why when I write my scripts first. I write it like a movie script first before I write my comic scripts. But then I take those scenes and I'm like, what can I get out of there? How can I make the pages go faster? And I remove stuff, and it doesn't look like this guy removed anything. He wanted to keep everything in the world in there, because technically a movie script automatically goes into storyboards, right, before it gets shot. So basically, he was making storyboards for himself. So maybe he's pitching this after. Image will help him pitch this after. It's not like that hasn't been done before. But yeah, so I agree with Max, but I still liked it. I thought it was decent. All right, and then let's go on to Notti and Nyce meet Red Sonja and Vampirella, and this is by Dolan Waddick, the same guy who did Born in Blood, and who is Drew from Comics Elite, and that's his pen name. I don't know why he has a pen name, but he does. So this was a Kickstarter book. I like Vampirella and Red Sonja. I don't know much about this Notti and Nyce character. The artwork is okay. So, like, they did a good job on this. But some of the character faces and stuff like that are only eh. So, yeah, like this particular panel looks extremely amateurish. But then again, some of the other faces on some of the other panels are decent. So it's kind of a hit or miss. But anyway, these two scantily clad agents are brought in to the X-Men. Tell me that doesn't look like the X-Men thing. I forgot the name of the helmet that he wears, where he finds other mutants. But anyway, so that's what it looks like. But I guess that all the plot is set up here in these 2 pages. But you can see that she doesn't, and even the thing, she doesn't have a gun in that holster. There's nothing there. And I'm going to bring that up in a second. So supposedly there are some of their files were stolen by 2 thieves, and they jumped off that thing, and they did multiple jumps to different, they say dimensions. Okay, I want to bring that up too. They say dimensions, and there's some typos in this too, which I found kind of strange. But anyway, they go to different dimensions, and then they're told also that they don't have time to go to the armory, so they can't go with any weapons. Okay, all that dialogue becomes important later, where it makes no sense. Okay, so they both jump in at the same time. I don't see the other people, controlling anything for this jump, right? So they both jump in one after the other, but they both end up in different places. So so I guess it's not. I'm just going to call her Notti. I don't know what's the difference between the 2 of them. But Notti ends up with Red Sonja, but then she's talking about time. So is it a dimensional thing, or is it time jumping? Because if you go into a different dimension, then you're still in the same time, right? So everything would look similar, right? But slightly different, right? Because it's still the same time. So, yeah, that didn't work for me. Dimension and time is, to me, 2 different things. And plus, it's extremely hard to read that. I don't know whose idea was it to go from black to red for the dialogue boxes. The first 3 lines, I couldn't read it. I just skipped it because I couldn't read it. Why write something that you can't read? So anyway, she picks up one of the weapons, and she fights alongside Red Sonja, but then they decide to fight each other. Why? Don't know. I don't understand it. It's like, okay, we have to have the other characters fight these characters. That was the whole basis for this book. Notti and Nyce have to fight Red Sonja and Vampirella, whether it makes sense or not. So they finish their fight, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to fight you. And Red Sonja's like, all right, I don't want to fight you either. I'll just get in my horse and go. That was the entire resolution of this fight. Yeah, I don't want to fight anymore. I'm not your enemy. Okay, you're not my enemy. Okay, I believe you. After we just fought. I don't understand it. So then she goes into the Gilded Veil, which is the bar, and she ends up finding her thief. And they can't get back unless they get the device from the thieves, right? Which also becomes important. So she does get the device from him, although they also say that it was randomly. In the beginning opening scene, they say that they went to random dimensions. So if it's random, how'd you follow them? And they made multiple jumps on top of that. I don't know. It makes it very hard to believe that they could follow them at all. So anyway, then we go into Nyce, who ends up, seeing a couple kissing, but they're not really kissing because they're getting bit by a vampire. Of course, we've seen that a million times. And look at that. Oops, wrong one. Look at that. She pulls out pistols. Where did those come from? She couldn't go to the armory. They weren't allowed to have weapons. And then as soon as she gets to the portal, she's firing pistols. What? So anyway, then we get exactly the same storyline again, where they just decide they're going to fight. So Vampirella and Nyce are fighting in the air. She tried to drop her, but nope, she jumped on top of her wings. And then she tries to make a crucifix out of dumbbells. And yeah, that worked. So here's the other thing. So we have all this stuff go back and forth with the fight, and exactly the same thing happens. I'm not your enemy, and they don't want to fight anymore. Right? Call the truce. Again. Twice in the same book. So anyway, they find I guess she finds the other guy in the stall. He's getting bit by another vampire, and Vampirella destroys the vampire, but we never see Nyce pick up the other controller. So how did she get back? How did she create the portal? Don't know. But anyway, they end up back at exactly the same time. But again, it's not time, it's dimension. Figure that out. And she goes, what happened to your guy? Because one brought their guy back and one didn't. And here's this amazing piece of dialogue. Yeah, about that. He couldn't make it. He was just sucking the life out of me. Come on, man. Come on. Come on with the cheese, brother. Come on with the cheese. Is that grated or is that just sliced? Because that's cheese, man. So anyway, then it says to be continued. But yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I talked a little bit too long on these already. So anyway, let's do the recap. So Notti and Nyce, Vampirella, and Red Sonja. No. Blood Commandment. Yeah. I'm liking the grounded storyline, even though it's supernatural. The Punisher. That's not Frank Castle. No, because we have to have Frank Castle first. So this would not make a good film or television show. Plus, he should have broken his back in there. What if Dark? The Tomb of Dracula. No, it was kind of stupid. Birds of Prey. Long live the dead IP. And that would be a no also. So, out of 4 or 5, we have 1. So, 4 no's to 1 yes. All right, that's it for me. And remember to not only to like and subscribe. I am trying to grow the channel, but also help me out with the Lords of LA. Go to Kickstarter, do the QR code, go to the link below in the description, and give me some love in my Kickstarter. All right, let's unlock some stretch goals. 48 pages, can't go wrong there. You can get both issues, and they're not that expensive. So, all right, thanks a lot, guys, and check out some of my other videos coming up over here. All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one, and happy Vets Day to all of the veterans out there. All right, thank you for your service. Bye-bye.